caring about your world, doing the next right and honorable thing. We're going to be talking to Dr. Linda Lagemann in this hour, and the subject is electroshock. If you've never seen it before, you're fortunate. You don't want to see it. You don't want to know what happens with electroshock. Trust me, you don't want to know. Well, Dr. Linda Lagemann is joining us. She is a former licensed clinical psychologist with 23 years experience in the field, and after observing that mental health field had become dominated by psychiatric labels and drugs and was doing more harm than good, she closed her practice. She now devotes herself full-time to getting laws passed to protect people's rights and to inform people about the disability caused by psychiatric drugs and electroshock. She is a commissioner for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights and associate clinical professor at the University of California. I'm so pleased to have her join us today, and of course we know about Citizens Commission on Human Rights. They're about the only ones doing this kind of education amongst the people. It's CCHRINT.org, CCHRINT.org, or CCHR.org. Dr. Lagemann, thank you so much for joining us in the Power Hour today.
Thank you for having me.
This is unbelievable. To most people, they don't even know electroshock's still going on. And then now to have children involved in this, I am just astounded. I cannot believe this story. Talk to me about why you got involved in this issue.
Because what's happening, we've got one trend in psychiatry that's destructive that then unfolds into another trend that is more destructive. I am incredibly concerned about the damage to the younger generation. I'm concerned about the damage to everybody that's going on right now with the psychiatric industry, but particularly with the younger generation, because it will cripple us if we are taking out the younger generation and the future leaders, because those are the kids, the ones that are thinking outside the box, that are more creative, that are bored in classroom. Those are the ones that get started on a path of drugs generally. And what's happening now, so many people are on psychiatric drugs, and I think probably your listeners know that. It's the latest data, actually, from IMS Health, is that 1 in 4 Americans now is on a psychiatric drug. So that many people on psychiatric drugs that even the American Psychiatric Association leadership and the National Institute of Mental Health are now saying don't work like they thought they would. They haven't been as effective as they thought. People have been damaged and driven downhill by the drugs, and now that has created a new market for electroshock. It's created, those are the customers. And we're at a we're at a very critical point right now of raising awareness to get ahead of this before all those people, that, quarter of the population, get transferred over to become the new customers for electroshock and these other implantable brain devices.
Okay, let's talk about the history of this. First of all, let's go into a little bit of the history. Okay, electroshock has been done in the past. We thought it was a thing of the past. Nobody's going to ever want to do that ridiculous, archaic, medieval punishment treatment ever again. And of course, here I need to state, my own statement is that I was involved and have given electroshock treatment to many, many patients. And I regret it horribly. It makes it very difficult to do this show because I realize what I did. We're talking to Dr. Linda Lagemann, and the subject is electroshock, of something of which I thought was over years ago. Now, given the fact that I was involved in electroshock, did it to people at a little hospital there in Houston, Texas, I just am astounded to think that it still goes on. Now, in talking with Linda, and I want to find out more about what's being done today, but she is saying it's done to those that are resistant to the drugs or don't get any effect from the drugs. Linda, this is, oh my gosh. So now all those people that took all those drugs, those SSRI drugs, now they're going to be given this, right?
That is exactly what's happening. And there's a whole kind of campaign that started in the media throwing around the word treatment resistant, also throwing around language that points people in the direction of electric solutions like brain circuitry, brain wiring, less language about chemical imbalance, which was used to market drugs, and the new language that you will see in news articles. It's just in there as if it's a fact now that struggles, mental, emotional struggles, are about brain wiring and circuitry and underpowered neurons, which then makes it easy to sell electroshock, ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, which, by the way, is about 450 volts of electricity shot through the brain to intentionally induce a grand mal seizure, and does cause brain damage because you're causing it. It's not like a regular seizure that somebody may have from epilepsy, which those also, neurologists try to prevent those because they can cause brain damage. But inducing it with a bunch of electricity for sure causes brain damage.
Okay, so years ago, this archaic form of torture was used, believing that it brought about some kind of good in these people. And I know what I was told. Joyce, if you don't do this, these people have no hope. This is their last hope. They are so bad off, this is their last hope. That's what I was told. So I'm giving this at, what was it, Park North Hospital, I believe, in Houston. So I'm giving this thinking, I'm helping these people as I watch them almost die in front of me. I totally understand. This is the thing where people, and like you as well as the patients, were horribly betrayed. And that's why I'm so passionate about this right now. I don't want a whole generation of people who have already been betrayed with the drugs to get further betrayed buying into this new miracle cure that they say it's this new version and it's the new cure and everything is, because of brain wiring and circuitry and this will help. I don't want people to fall for this. Every failure in psychiatry leads to more profit and more damage and destruction of people. The drugs don't work. They're not saying, they don't admit that and say, drugs don't work. We're sorry, we caused a lot of damage. What they say is, your condition is treatment resistant. It's the nature of your condition, and you need electroshock. This is, okay, let's talk about what years did they give electroshock? When was it really popular? Do you recall?
It started in the 30s is when it was, quote, discovered. But I think 40s, 50s, with the 60s when there was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it got, there was a big decline in it. But it never went all the way away. And now what's happening is the American Psychiatric Association pressured the FDA to reclassify it as safe and effective, even though, first of all, most people don't know it's being done. Second, they definitely don't know that it never went through clinical trials. It was never shown to be safe and effective. Never.
Just like the drugs. The SSRI drugs never went through safety. Well, they say they did, but,
they falsified data. Yeah, they lied.
Right.
But the American Psychiatric Association pressured to get a reclassification to Class 2, which is safe and effective, same category as powered wheelchairs and acupuncture needles, hearing aids. Those are Class 2 and of safety. And the FDA issued that proposed rule, and there were a bunch of public comments that came in, and we're in a very tricky place right now where at any moment they could issue and say, okay, we reviewed everything and now it is a final ruling, or they can decide, if there's enough publicity and raised awareness about this, they could stop and not buckle to pressure from the APA. But right now they are, considering making that a final ruling and to call it safe. On top of that, the American Psychiatric Association sent a letter, which I have a copy of it, where they are saying that the proposed rule doesn't go far enough, and they want the FDA to include that it is safe for children and adolescents.
Oh, no. And when they say children and adolescents, how young are they going?
There's no lower age limit on it. I can tell you, the sentence says, we also recommend that the Class 2, which is the safe one, we also recommend that the Class 2 designation include ECT treatment for children and adolescents meeting the criteria for treatment resistance. And anybody who doesn't get better by drugs is called treatment resistant.
Wow.
Yes,
this has all kinds of... now why is it the CCHR is the only organization talking about this? Where is the rest of the world? I can't imagine any one person in their right mind that would agree with this. I can't, or in their wrong mind. I can't even imagine anybody agreeing with this. Why is it no one's talking about this but CCHR?
I think the there may be other groups. CCHR is the most vocal, and CCHR does have a lot of allies now and people that are doing things. But CCHR has incredible research, got an incredible team that stays on top of these things. But you are totally correct when you say nobody in their right mind would be for this. The very big challenge we face is that nobody knows. This is going on behind closed doors. Nobody knows. And something that, when we get joined later by Kenny and Tony, something that Tony has said is electroshock, ECT, is the perfect crime because the victims are damaged. Yeah.
You just gave me goosebumps all over. Oh, that's horrible. The perfect crime is electroshock.
Yes. That's right, because the victims are so damaged or intimidated that they won't speak. It's very hard to find people with the courage and ability that Tony and Kenny have to talk. But he says they're either so damaged they won't speak, and the perpetrators are doing it behind closed doors with the authority given to them, and nobody knows. So it's going on. Nobody knows.
Oh, my gosh. I have to admit.
To get this out there.
Yes. And I have to admit that I saw a government person, and I want to say on a local level, that was given electroshock, and I couldn't figure out why at the time. And, of course, I never doubted anybody in a white lab coat, so I thought they were all doing the right thing. And I never doubted it until now. The perfect crime. That was a perfect way to silence this guy. This guy they wanted to silence. I cannot believe, oh my gosh, the potential for this abuse is just beyond belief. You can take any child in any school that didn't respond to Ritalin or didn't respond to an SSRI drug now and say, well, this is the last hope. And the parents will have to do it. Otherwise, DFS will intervene. Is that right? Oh my gosh.
Yes, it's... It is. The potential for abuse is staggering, and we are at this point right now where our challenge is raising awareness. Because if this were on nationwide TV and everybody knew, they would say, "Stop this! What the heck?"
That's right. That's right.
Put a halt to this. What is the American Psychiatric Association doing? Like they're destroying us. But with nobody knowing, it just happens, and it happens, and more and more kids and more money. There are deep pockets involved because Medicare, elderly are being shocked at a much higher rate now in care facilities to control them. Medicare pays.
Medicare pays for electroshock.
Electroshock. There is a 360% increase in the amount of electroshock given from people age 64 to age 65 when Medicare kicks in.
Oh, my God.
You know what I mean? From somebody who's 64 years old, they don't need electroshock.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, somebody turns 65, 360% increase in how many people then need ECT.
Oh, man. That is such a perfect way to silence someone. Number one, you take away their memories. You take away any thought of being able to function in the world, literally, depending on the number of treatments that are done. And, of course, when we're talking in a few minutes after the break, we're going to bring on Tony first. I'm just so pleased that these people are willing to speak out. Is there a large group of people that are willing to speak out on this subject now?
There are very few that are willing to speak out. There's an entire community of ECT survivors, a large community that are connected on the internet, but there are very, very few who will speak out.
And the reason being, you would think they would be screaming it from the rooftops. Are they afraid of being shocked again?
Some are, and that's actually was again. Tony can talk about his experience, but when he complained and said he didn't remember anything, and he got upset about that, he was sent for more shock.
Oh, my gosh. The people that I saw had been shocked so many times. They literally shocked them till they had no memory. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but shocked them till they had no memory. I cannot believe what I'm hearing, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are taking this in and willing to do something about it. Please educate your friends, your church, whatever. Take this program today and send it to your listeners. It's one of those you have got to be kidding stories. Duct tape your head together before you listen to this, because it is not even, I can't even conceive that this is going on.
Yeah.
See, I'm an advantage here. I am really biased on another side of that because I've seen it before and I've done it before, so I know. Now, have you ever seen it before, Linda? Have you ever seen electroshock?
Not in person, but I have, videos of electroshock.
Videos,
It's horrible.
It is.
Yeah.
And to be there and to me be the one pushing the button, you don't know how I feel. I mean, I have so much karma I have to overcome as a result of this. Now, we are going to be talking to a couple of people who have endured this. Tell me just a little bit about Tony, and we'll get to, just briefly tell me about Tony, and then we'll introduce him to the audience.
Tony, he's now speaking about this. He wasn't before talking about it. It took a lot of years. I mean, he was shocked when he was 15 years old. Tony is about 60 now. When he was 15 years old, he went to see a therapist because he was shy and anxious, and that therapist, unfortunately, was being supervised by a psychiatrist who was writing a book called The Miracle of Shock Treatment. So 3 months into therapy, just going for talk therapy, they told his parents that he needed electroshock. And that's how he never was on a psych drug or anything. It was just straight to electroshock. And he can talk about that experience. But it took many, many years for him to talk about this. And now he is to help others.
Yeah, because for so long it was accepted treatment, and it was a sign that you were just really, really bad off. And so it was an admission that I was a crazy person, or I was a this person, or a that person. Yeah. And so I wouldn't have wanted to talk about either. And then to think now that he's coming forward and there are others that are afraid to, wow, that just frightens me.
Another thing that's happening, so as I mentioned, the American Psychiatric Association is pressuring the FDA to have a safe classification for use on children. They are right now doing electroshock on autistic children, and there's stuff in the news there's been about this skin shock, but I mean electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, is being done on children with autism. It's exactly no. And the rationale on paper, what they say is they do it for children who are like doing self-injury, slapping themselves or poking their eyes.
Right.
And they report that it temporarily works. They do stop that behavior. And I am telling you, like no joke, if you hit a kid with a baseball bat, it would also stop that behavior. It's not signs of some therapeutic process that the kid stops doing it. It is because you have further injured and traumatized them that it stops anything they were doing.
I think you're right about that. I mean, hitting them with anything, and especially, how much did you say you get in electrovolts in this?
450 volts.
Oh, my gosh.
There's the American Psychiatric Association is arguing that it's not like the old ECT, it's safe now. I had a report from an electrical engineer guy, a biological electrical, I don't know what all his credentials. He's got huge credentials. He's in the NASA Hall of Fame.
Okay, we got to take a break here. We got a 3-minute break. We'll be back with Linda Lagemann. We'll be talking to Tony and Kenny in just a second. We've been talking to Dr. Linda Lagemann. I want to remind you that we have a number of items on special at the Power Mall, and this week you will get a special offer, a special Oneida offer. If you order $25 worth of products, $50, $100, $150, or $200, you will get a special item from the Power Mall. Give us a call and place your order this week, 877-817-9829, 877-817-9829, or go to thepowermall.com. And remember, the Colloidal Advantage Silver, it is on special. 16 ounces of silver in a glass amber bottle, $19.96. That's incredible. Also, Purslane is on special, and the charcoal. Getting back to the subject at hand, we've had a number of people from CCHR on the program before because they are doing the best work anywhere on the SSRI psychiatric issue. The hidden enemy, of course, you all have heard me talk about that many, many times, inside psychiatry's covert agenda. And we have that at the Power Mall. You can give us a call at 877-817-9829. It is an amazing video of things you will not believe. One thing you'll hear in there is that these children of dependents who went, let's say their father went to Afghanistan, if the child was wetting the bed or having problems, they sent it to the psychiatrist. 91% of those children were placed on psychiatric drugs. 91%. You think we don't have a problem growing inside the military? So get the hidden enemy. We're talking to Dr. Linda Lagemann today, and electroshock is the issue. It's coming back. It's going to be probably worse than ever. The perfect crime, as Tony said. All right, Tony, I think we have you on the line now, don't we?
I'm here.
Okay, Tony, I appreciate very much your joining us today. This has not got to be easy to talk about. I feel for you. Trust me, I feel for you. Having been a nurse involved in this, I just feel for you so very much. But talk to us about your situation. How did you get involved? How horrible was it? That's the part we want to know so that nobody will ever want to see this done again to anyone else. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Sure, but before I do that, I would like to personally absolve you of any karma in this. I think you thought you were doing the right thing at the time. And
well, thank you. That is more than kind. That is more than kind of you to say that. But trust me, I have a belief that I understand what you have been through, probably more than all these listeners. I can't absolve myself, but I thank you very much for your kind words. All right, well, tell me about yourself.
Well, let's see. Just now I forgot how to use the telephone because I was trying to talk on Skype, and there was this huge delay. And I could hear you trying to get through to me, and I was talking, and then I could hear myself talking like 10 or 15 seconds later. And I got so stressed that I forgot how to operate the keypad. And this is like one of the many benefits that I've enjoyed from my shock treatments over the years.
And I don't think anyone can understand what he's saying unless you've been through something like this. Now, you were how old, or when did you start? Did you ever get the pills, the SSRI drugs?
No, I didn't. I had mine in 69 or actually 1970, and there weren't that many drugs on the market that I'm aware of at the time. There certainly wasn't this SSRI craze.
Right.
And the particular doctor that I had the fortune of knowing was a real shock fanatic, and he had written a book called The Miracle of Shock Treatments. And he actually wrote in the book that the therapeutic effect is equivalent to the amount of damage that's produced. And he also wrote that most of his colleagues were in agreement with that. So I think that's basically how the therapeutic effect is produced by causing basically like a concussion.
Right. And, over and over again. Over and over.
Yeah. Now, typically 3 times a week for 3 to 4 weeks and under general anesthesia. So
now, at 15 years of age, they started shocking you. Is that correct?
16, yeah.
16? Okay, what was the indication, or what was the diagnosis, or whatever? What were you told about why you were going to be shocked? What were your parents told?
I don't know. I don't remember. I was actually hospitalized twice, given two separate series, and I can only remember maybe about 40 seconds of what essentially was 2 months of hospitalizations. I have about 30 or 40 seconds of memories from those 2 combined hospitalizations.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
But you do know, Tony, what you were told. Yeah.
Yeah, I do know. I do remember I was extremely shy and wasn't communicating much. And after the first series, I was complaining when I went back to tried going back to high school. That's when I really felt the amnesia. And it was very embarrassing and humiliating and all that stuff. And I was complaining about the memory, and the doctor's response was that that was an indication that I was more depressed. And therefore I needed a second series. Now, for anybody listening to this show who's thinking of getting ECT or knows somebody who's had it, this is a very typical line that you'll receive from doctors, that if you lost, 4 years of your college education after ECT, well, that's actually a function of your depression. But that's a complete lie, because depression does not eliminate autobiographical memory, to that degree.
Wow.
And
Linda.
so people are told this and convinced, to have more. And it does produce a sense of euphoria, I suspect, because the brain, when it goes into a massive seizure like that, it flatlines for a few seconds, and then when it recovers, it floods the brain with neurotransmitters. And this will give one a sense of euphoria for a couple of weeks. And then a lot of people will say that they feel better after ECT, but they haven't gone back to their former lives yet. So you get a lot of skewed and biased studies, which are basically done when people are still in the hospital getting ECT or shortly thereafter. There's only been 16, yeah.
So you were 16 when it began. You are 60 years old now. Let me ask you, how has your life been impacted by this experience? How are you today or different today than you think you would have been otherwise?
Well, I think it really took me out of the game, so to speak. I did try going to college afterwards. I did very well the first semester, but realized going into the second semester that I didn't have most of my high school, education, and my short-term memory was impacted. My learning memory. There was a few really good situations that I had to walk away from, which would have then given me a great career because I couldn't retain the information. And especially if there's any amount of stress involved, it's just cognition goes right down the tubes. Like just a little while ago, I could not remember how to get into my phone menu. And it's very difficult to explain, to people because it doesn't seem to affect intelligence overall. But there are all these little cognitive problems that have major impact.
Well, it may affect different people different ways. That was what I saw anyway. But let me go to Kenny because I want to get time for both of you, and this is so fascinating. Tony, I could talk to you all day about this as to what this has done to you, and I more than appreciate your coming on the program to save other people from this same horrendous situation. Let me go to Kenny. Kenny, are you there?
Yeah. Hi.
All right, Kenny, now tell me about your situation. And first of all, let me say the same thing. I thank you so much for coming on and saving someone else from this experience, because we've got to get people to understand what happens here and how bad this is. So tell me about your situation. Why were you given electroshock?
Right. So I was, at 14 years old, I was diagnosed with underactive thyroid because I was complaining of severe depression. And so at 14, but I also growing up, I dealt with, there's a lot of family dysfunction. So that was contributing to a lot of depression as well. So at 14, I was given a thyroid hormone to treat my underactive thyroid. And at the same time, I was given an antidepressant to kind of boost the effects of it. And so, I kind of got into the system at a young age, so to speak, with, seeing a psychiatrist at a very young age. And then from middle school to high school, I was pretty much polydrugged and then given shock at 21 years old for treatment resistant. But looking back, I obviously know that if I would have just treated the thyroid condition and seen a therapist to treat my to treat the trauma and the dysfunction with my family, I know that none of this stuff would ever happen to me. So
wow.
Like I said, the drugs, they keep piling up over the years because, as you know, that one drug, it tends to usually almost always make you worse. And so they just keep adding more to kind of counteract other side effects. And so it's just a pretty bad situation. And
Kenny, can you tell me some of the drugs you were placed on and why you were placed on those drugs? What phony reason they used?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was just, like Paxil and, the SSRIs, Wellbutrin, a bunch of the different, what they call mood stabilizers, even, lithium and a bunch of these different drugs, just all kinds, And
so you were polydrugged. Then they said you were resistant to treatment. The drugs didn't work, probably because you didn't need them in the first place. And so they decided that, to save this kid's life, he won't have any quality of life if we don't shock the living daylights out of him. So they bring you in for shock treatments. What do you remember about the shock treatments?
Well, to be honest, I don't recall a whole lot about it because like I said, I'm 28 years old now, and I was given shock at 21, and I had 30 rounds of electroshock, and it's like waking up every day not knowing who you are for me, because when you're shocked at a young age, you haven't lived a whole lot of life, you haven't had a whole lot of experiences, you haven't had a whole lot of memory. So to this day, I have not one memory of high school or my childhood, and so it's constantly difficult to recall, kind of, or to identify who I am. 6 months after the shock, I just want to make a point that I have proof of how damaging shock is. 6 months after the shock, I went for a neuropsych battery test for cognition and IQ. And in high school, I do know that my junior and senior year, I graduated on the honor roll, and despite even being polydrugged. And 6 months after the shock, I was given an IQ test, and my IQ was measured at 78, which is 75 is rendered mentally retarded. And so, after the shock, the only very few memory that I remember was I was down towards the bottom of my staircase, and my father was teaching me how to retie my shoes.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't go for walks anywhere because I'd forget how to get home. I couldn't drive my car. I still to this day deal with night terrors every night, probably just because of the traumatic experience. I've seen an eye doctor, and my eyes don't really coordinate well. The first thing they asked me, they said, have you had a traumatic brain injury? Have you fallen, hit your head? Have you had a stroke? So, I have like a nystagmus in my eye that it's kind of hard to coordinate my eyes at times because of the shock.
Do you know the alleged reason that your parents told you, or how did they talk your parents into this? Do you recall? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, like I said, it was just, I just remember I was in the hospital, and they said, hey, we can transfer Kenny over to a different hospital to get this kind of last resort treatment. And so, it's done wonders with people, and that's, I guess, all I kind of recall about it. And so I was transferred, and then given shock in the hospital, and then, given shock on outpatient, because, they kept saying, no, you have to keep going and keep going. And I was actually the one that had to pull the plug with this shock doctor, because he wanted to keep going. I already had 30 shocks, and he was, he's like, no, I think we should keep going. And so,
oh my gosh.
I told him, I said, no, I really have to stop. I can't do anything anymore. I can't do anything with my life. And, my cognition is so bad, my memory, I can't think from moment to moment. And he just said, no, let's just keep going. But thankfully, he agreed with me. And he said, okay, Kenny, just take the summer off and come on back. You'll be welcome back with open arms, kind of, crap. So I couldn't believe this mentality. It was just really disgusting to me.
Well, you had very good insurance. That's one of the things, I think, Kenny, yes?
Right. Yeah, I had really good insurance.
Oh, dear.
So that's
but now Medicare does it. Linda, explain to the listeners what they do to a person. How do they do electroshock?
The procedure, well, these guys could also tell you, but now they use a general anesthesia, and they use a muscle relaxant to temporarily paralyze the person so that they don't, before they did that, people would commonly break bones, including break their spines, because of the severity of the convulsion that it causes. So externally, it looks different because there is not that intense, body convulsion. But the violence to the brain is actually worse now in their new and improved version than it used to be. And that's where, I had this report from this electrical engineer guy where he goes over how the electricity causes holes in the cells in the brain that then causes the cells to die. Okay, we got to go to this break.
Dr. Linda Lagemann is someone I am so proud of that is out there and is supporting people like Kenny and Tony who have been through a living hell, and their life will be impacted. It will never be back to normal unless there's some miraculous way that it can be, rejoined, and I wish that that they could. But Linda, okay, we've heard from Tony, we've heard from Kenny, and this is where they take an electrical current, small electrical currents, pass it through the brain, creating a seizure. That's what electroshock is. And you've seen the movies, you've heard it. It's horrendous. Go ahead, Dr.
Well, I was going to say, it's not a small current, and that's what they will say. It's not a small current. 110 volts is a standard wall socket. ECT is 450 volts. And,
whoa.
Yeah, and the significance, it's more what it does, because there is some resistance because of the skull, but this electrical engineer who did an analysis, he's in the NASA Hall of Fame, he's got a whole list of credentials. He, as a scientist, looked at and analyzed the old electroshock machines and the new electroshock machines and their effect on brain tissue, brain cells. And the new machines, which they are touting as, this is not like before, it's not like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it's all great. Those actually cause more damage. They decreased the amount of damage that was done by heat, because, the electricity generates heat. So they do shorter pulses that cause less heat damage. But in order to get the same effect in the convulsion, they had to increase the current and the voltage, and that is causing more holes in the cell membranes, which causes the cells to die. So it is doing more damage than before. It's unbelievable that this is going on. It is completely unbelievable. It is a barbaric experiment. There is no science in psychiatry, which is just the most fundamental problem. Medicine at least has some scientific method. They do try to find the cause of things, and they find cures. And they've done some good things in the field of medicine. There's all kinds of alternative things that, we know now can be better.
Mm-hmm. But that's right.
In the field of psychiatry, they have never applied the scientific method, and they have never found the cause for any mental or emotional struggle that they claim is under their area of expertise. No single cause, no single cure. But they've given us destructive treatment after destructive treatment with authoritative claims that it works, but they don't know the mechanism of action.
And they still do it. They still do it.
Yes.
I want to say
really
thank you.
Have people please use social media, Facebook, Twitter, sound the alarm, call your congressman. Please get the word out.